This interview is brought to you in association with Rabobank.
Hello and welcome to Rural Delivery Online, where we speak with those who are working in and for New Zealand's primary industries. Now, 2015 has been a testing year for many in the dairy sector, and in our final web interview for the year, Dairy NZ's Chief Executive, Dr. Tim Mackle, joins me now to talk about the year that was in dairying. Tim, welcome.
Thanks, Roger.
Tim, I don't think I've seen farming, the primary sector, and certainly dairying in the media more in any other year than it was this year. Not always for the right reasons or reasons that you'd celebrate. You've had a few hurdles. What's been the biggest this year?
I think, Roger, the biggest story of the year, has been ongoing depressed milk price. So, that has been the big challenge for farmers. They had a pretty tough year last year on the back of that record milk price in 13-14. Fortunately, there was carryover, particularly if you're a Fonterra supplier. You had the retro payments coming forward into 14-15, which is the year that we finished in the middle of this year. And so that, if you like, softened some of the blow of the milk price during the year. There's some milk payments came forward cash flow-wise, but of course, the same hasn't happened going into the season that we're right now in the 15-16 season. So, I guess the pain continues on for farmers. So it's definitely been a real challenge for them.
The industry has rallied, though. I know Fonterra and the other dairy companies have thought very carefully about how they can support suppliers. Dairy NZ's doing a lot. What are the key things that are going to make the difference as we go through this dip?
Yeah, I think, we've gone from a situation, as I say, of extremely high milk price to one now where we're predicting that the average loss at the current sort of 460-ish milk price forecast, which really translates to a total milk income of about $4.15. So, because remember, there are very little retro payments, in fact, nothing really coming forward from last year. And so by the time you tally everything up, including dividend and everything, you're really only looking at a milk income of somewhere around $4.15 for the year if they hold their forecast now. That translates to a gap of maybe $1.20 between what they're earning and what it costs to produce. So, that's the kind of loss that we're looking at. Probably 70 to 80% of our farmers at that level will make a cash loss this year. So the focus really, as it has been since late last year for us all, has been to work on, how do we help farmers get through this? How do you really narrow the gap between what it's costing to produce and below that what they're getting paid? But I think there's an opportunity for the long run, and how do we look to reset our whole competitiveness around this based on the assumption that volatility is here to stay. It's more frequent and the swings are bigger.
So instead of responding perhaps tactically, you're talking about responding strategically.
We certainly are looking at it that way. The biggest priority for Dairy NZ and helping farmers is undoubtedly to help them get through this. And so, there's been a lot of technical initiatives, and I can talk about those in a minute, but there's also a long game thing here as well. It's a real stark reminder that we've got to focus hard on our competitiveness, and make sure that we can thrive at below $5 milk price when we need to, So, some of the technical things we've done, obviously, there were three real focus areas. One was how do we be as efficient as we can around that whole managing our costs. How do we support talent and capability coming through? So you're talking really about share milkers and so on there. And how do we help people from a wellness and wellbeing perspective, And so there's a huge amount of work going on there, with the Rural Support Trust and with others in that space. And the focus of that first priority around, the financials, the profit side of things has been really centred around, firstly, how do you grow and harvest a lot more pasture? We have a target of doing another tonne of pasture harvested before Christmas. Is, the most important driver of profit on a dairy farm. How much can you grow and harvest? And of course, there's also some areas around a waste hump. How do you make your business more leaner as well? And in that second area, we talked earlier on about the share milk as well. They've had a tough time, and if you're a lower order share milker, let alone a 50-50. you've got a share of the costs. You have obviously a share of the income, and if you're 29%, and it's sort of the level that you'll get. But you don't have any real facilities to borrow. They're not actually dealt with by the agri-banks, the low order share milkers. They're done through the regular consumer channels. So if you haven't got equity like in your cows to borrow against, then when you go into negative, it's a tough time. So there's been a real rally by the industry, ourselves, fed farmers, Fonterra and the other dairy companies. And also the accountants have offered their time pro bono as well to help out people and help them develop a plan. So that's been a real key initiative too.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the accountants there, because through this period, most farmers or many farmers will come out with a much deeper understanding of how the money actually works in their business and where profit is and the direct actions they can take to understand that money go around and therefore farm better, will they not?
Yeah, definitely. But we would all hope that the extent to which we bring about, substantial change, I hope it is quite significant. In other words, pre this sort of very, very soft patch, perhaps even back in 13, 14, if you ask the banks how many of their clients were doing budgets and then regularly monitoring them on a monthly basis and actually, working through that, checking off costs, and then the numbers was very low. I mean, we did a survey of banks maybe 5 years ago, and the figure was somewhere around 10 to 15%. We're regularly monitoring cash budgets on a monthly basis. I think you'll find, a lot of banks are doing that now with their clients, and farmers certainly will be doing more of that. We hope that it becomes the norm, because, that's really a standard practice that you just need to do to keep the cash coming in and keep the cash in your pocket. And know where you're at in the business and follow the plan that you have. So I think, financial literacy, if you like, is always a challenge for some because they haven't been exposed to that. And so there's quite a bit on offer too, Roger, around that space. Dairy Women's Network are doing quite a lot around that. You've got Agri Women's Development Trust doing stuff. ITO, Primary ITO, and of course Dairy NZ are involved in investing in all those channels too. And we've got tools on our website and so on. One of the great things I think that came out of the Tactics campaign was that besides the 23 or 24 odd farmers across the country that offered up their businesses for close scrutiny by others and regular catch-ups, we had a bunch of farmers, in fact, across different farm systems that had low-cost structures that provided us with their books, anonymous, but taking a look at their budgets for the year ahead. So I think that's been, I know for a fact that's been hugely well accessed on our internet. We've had a website, we've had a huge number of hits on that. And that was really good. So, in terms of how to do a $3.50 farm working expense budget, and actually putting up on our website real live budgets that really good farmers were going to deliver.
Yeah, so there is an industry-wide response, and there's no doubting it's tough times, but there are good times too. Has there been a highlight for your year?
Well, I think one of them would be the fact that, people have rallied together, and it is, at the end of the day, a hallmark of our industry, and people have always done that. It's kind of the whole cooperative nature of the industry. And, you've got some actual more formal bodies like the Rural Support Trust. I mean, they have really stepped up, and fortunately we've had a little bit of new investment coming in from Ministry for Primary Industries. Nathan Guy, Minister, committed $250K in the middle of the year. Dairy NZ to work with that funding to put it through Rural Support Trust to train 100 new first response people out there across the country. Now, they're available for all sorts of primary industries, not just dairy. You've also another $250K from Jonathan Coleman going into the health side of things, and that again was going through, I think, the Rural Health Alliance, and so that sort of injection might seem small, but it makes quite a big difference. And then just generally, you've got some really good initiatives going on. I've heard of farmers, dropping baking off at farmers' dairies and stuff. that know are a bit down, and it's just some really good stuff going on, I think, across the industry.
Yeah, primo. And look, you might have been looking forward to a bit of a quiet Christmas, but the industry's had to endure a late kick in the guts for the year through the Bobby Calf. We'll call it a scandal, but let's just say that that's a significant piece of negative media. You've responded very strongly as an industry. To what extent is this just par for the course these days? These groups exist, they will act in this way, and really you've just got to say that's part of the environment.
I think that is true, Roger. I think that milk price and the financial viability and fundamental profitability is always an ongoing challenge for us, and it needs to be a big focus for us. But as farmers well know, there are a number of other challenges that maybe perhaps weren't there 20 years ago. And, one of them is that ongoing challenge around the public and consumers, customers, and their perceptions of how they want their food to be produced. And I think that's separate from this particular instance. This is more about an animal activist group who have a personal belief system, that there's an ideological position where they don't believe animals should be farmed at all. And obviously they're using this animal welfare, these issues, to advance that fundamental belief, that position that they've got. So I think where we are in agreement with SAFE and Farm Watch is that we both, think that I guess we're denouncing that kind of behaviour, throwing cars on trucks and grossly mistreating them in abattoirs and leaving them out too long at the gate and having sick calves even being transported. That's not on, that stuff. But that's where the similarities finish. They believe we shouldn't be farming at all, and we think that we're an industry that does a lot of good for the world through providing a highly nutritious food. So that's a little bit different, but I think in general, the whole area of the public and customers having views on how we should farm is something we've always got to be aware of now, more than ever. At the same time, you've got, the challenges around environmental sustainability. And of course, the other big area is how we look after our people. So this year in October, we did release the Dairy Workplace Action Plan. Now, that action plan is all about two main things. How do we have a quality work environment around health and safety, and also about our general employment conditions under which we look after our staff. So it's fundamentally all about looking after our people and growing them within the industry and making sure that they see a future. And that's been a big highlight for us. Roger, the Minister for Primary Industries, Honourable Nathan Guy, launched that at Lincoln University Dairy Farm, 300 odd farmers back in October, and that was. So it just highlights to your point that on one hand, profitability probably is more important than it ever has been, because, volatility, other competing nations overseas, obviously the quotas have come off in the EU, and the US are interested in exports too, and so on. So we've got to be lean and go for it there. But we've got some other drivers that you've got to take care of too.
Okay. Just before we go, if we look across perhaps into next year, you might have a tough summer season to deal with in some parts of the country. You might get lucky and the dollar might stay low. Here's hoping. The consumer sentiment isn't going to go away, but the fundamentals we keep hearing are still good for New Zealand as a food producing country, obviously. If you were going to go into 2016 looking forward to something, what would that be?
I think it is about resetting a real focus on being more competitive as a dairy nation. We've probably slipped a little bit on our competitiveness, and some pretty good years on milk price hasn't helped us very much. It's also been tough with droughts in certain parts, particularly in the north, so that hasn't helped either. But we've got to take this opportunity to actually, help our industry focus hard on how do we be a really competitive industry in terms of profitability. So that would be something I'm quite excited about the year ahead. Obviously, we want milk price to jump up as well. That would be nice, and I'm optimistic that will happen. To what extent, I'm not sure. No one knows. And of course, there's those other drivers. And I think, Roger, one of the most heartening things about if I can take anything heartening away from this terrible episode that farmers have been exposed to with this Safe campaign and Farm Watch campaign, for me, it's been, I've had dozens and dozens of emails from farmers, you can imagine, over the last week. Now, the majority, the vast majority of the emails were actually firstly denouncing a good deal of the footage, not all of it. Some of that footage was normal, farm practice, but denouncing a good amount of the footage. They were appalled and shocked too, and angry about it because it wasn't them. Okay, they were obviously very upset about the latest stunt that's been pulled by Safe with the ad overseas, but not one of them has complained about milk price. They have not complained about the fact that things are tough economically and things are starting to bite for them because 90-day terms are coming off and 120-day terms into the season. And to me, that was really heartening because I thought, here they are, worried about, the fact that they care about their animals, they're worried about the reputation of the industry, and yet things were still extremely tough financially, but they didn't complain about it. And so that's one of the reasons why I love working in the industry, I think, Roger, is because people are passionate about that, what they're doing, and they're here because they want to be in dairy.
Oh, well, here's to that. Tim, thank you very much for your time today. It has been a tough year. I hope you have a good, relaxing break, and we look forward to talking to you in the new year.
Thanks, Roger.
This interview was brought to you in association with Rabobank.